All right, guys, so welcome to another training. Today, we're going to be talking about how to handle and overcome objections that show up on your sales calls, whether you're a consultant and or possibly even a business, your own business owner running your own calls and simply trying to convert more deals. I know this is a very common issue in the sales space, and it can become very, very hard to deal with if you don't have the right approach when you have these objections that just surface out of these calls when your prospects are simply just throwing out different types of circumstances. And again, a lot of closers or consultants leave a lot of money on the table because they simply just don't know how to approach an objection and understand what it is for what the prospect is actually saying. 9 out of 10 times, usually you have to go ahead and simply just isolate these variables. And what these variables are again, usually a money-based objection, time, or possibly maybe even a value-based objection. Of course, you're going to have a lot of different scenarios depending on what type of industry or avatar you're currently serving. So again, if you're just starting off or you're a seasoned consultant or business owner that knows a lot of the issues that your prospects are facing, you should have a common ground or even a map or a layout of just the types of issues that usually show up on the call. And those are the variables that you should start to kind of isolate to determine how to get to the next phase or process the sale over as well. So what I like to do is I like to gamify the experience, and I like to look at it as simply just a game. And essentially, if your prospect has a money-based objection, or let's say even time, we can walk through a couple of scenarios that will simply allow you to understand that it's a constant reiteration of infinite loops. As long as you're able to go ahead and figure out how to isolate and dissolve one variable by, taking your time and not attacking everything all at once, you need to understand that your prospect needs to understand what it is that they want to get out of the entire experience, or maybe possibly working with you guys. So when you are focusing on, let's say, for example, that they don't have enough time for the program, whether you're running a coaching service or you're running a done for you program for your agency. A lot of the time, some prospects say, hey, listen, I love your program. I simply just don't have the time to do this. And those are one of the reasons as to why I can't commit to this right now. But you guys are really good at what you do, and I want to figure out how to work with you. So what I like to say is this. All I ask as the prospect is, if you were to simply figure out a way to have more time for this, and we were to figure out exactly how we can make this work with your specific schedule, would you be completely opposed, or would it be crazy for us to possibly figure out how to make this work for you? And when you are able to go ahead and confront that process up front, what you're doing is what the prospect is casting over in terms of what their circumstance is. You're simply letting them know that, hey, we understand exactly what is stopping you. But again, if we were to remove that from the business and make this a lot more easier for you to actually onboard and enroll here without having to sacrifice a lot of time, would we be in a good position to possibly work with one another? Okay. Another process, or again, another framework that usually shows up is really just like, hey, I don't really have enough money for this, right? And of course, when prospects say that they don't have enough money for this, either you haven't actually gone ahead and brought the value to them, which has allowed them to obviously look at your service or your process as something that they can spend that type of money on. But more than likely, what happens is that prospects do have the capital. They just don't see themselves actually putting that type of money into your service and or solution at that time. Something that you should actually be looking into is obviously asking them is, if they see us do X outcome, or they work with us for our coaching program for, let's say, 3 months or maybe even 4 months, and we have a determined value or an outcome that we're driving for them, be like, if you were to simply just drive that value, we were to just focus on what they wanted to get out from the business, would money be a problem? Because you're simply trying to show them that whatever issues that they're currently having as to why they're struggling with, whether there's their income or cash flow or whatever it may be, that's the main bottleneck that we're trying to solve. So how long are you going to really take to actually explain to your client that that's a problem, that money problem is going to constantly show up if we don't actually solve whatever it is that we're actually trying to help them with? So the longer we actually stall the process of actually getting around to the solution and figuring out how to actually remove those bottlenecks or those cloggages in the business as well too, the faster they can come around to having to not worry about spending X amount of money on their business, which they should be able to openly do if they're thriving and they're currently scaling as well too. More than likely, again, you're going to have a lot of different types of scenarios. But what I want to actually let you guys know is that it's simply your approach to understanding that whatever the actual objection or hurdle is that the prospect is throwing out to you, 9 out of 10 times, again, it's really not a definite. As a consultant, it's up to you to go ahead and actually listen to what that means for the prospect. And all you have to do is go ahead and isolate those variables and actually go ahead and let them know that we're here to figure out how to make this, an easier enrollment process for them. And of course, if you're able to isolate those variables one by one, you're constantly getting one step closer to actually getting the sale. So what I'm trying to say here is that you guys need to listen to your prospects and actually understand what they mean when they say that, hey, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, and I don't think this might be a good fit. You need to understand that it usually just comes down to these three variables, which is money, time, or value. And if you're doing your discovery process thoroughly and you're going through your entire process very effectively and you're building rapport and authority with your clients, usually the only variables that show up at the end of the call is really just a money and a value-based objection, which again can be easily overcome when you actually go ahead and listen to the client and also have a great solution that's going to allow your client to understand how to take each and every single step appropriately for their business. So again, this is just a little bit of a quick training, guys. Hope you guys got some value from this. And of course, I will be dropping some more content and value on just handling sales calls, building sales teams, and of course, the infrastructures and systems that actually got our company to actually grow to 7 figures as well. And again, this is just a quick wrap up. I'll see you guys later. Take care.